We're going to play a game. I have got here 3 piles of books, A, B, and C. And these books are 30 years apart, but they're all answering the same question. Who are young people today? What is this generation like in the era they wrote in? So this first pile is all about Generation X. This second pile is all about Generation Y or Millennials. And this third pile is what we're reading today, is all about Generation Z. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a quote from one of these books in one of these piles, and I want you to guess which pile it's from. Is it from A, talking about Gen X, B, talking about Generation Y or Millennials, or C, talking about Gen Z? Quote number 1. No longer is family defined as male husband and female wife, much less involving children. So A, B or C, Gen X, Y or Z. That's from pile C. It's a comment about Generation Z. To be gay or lesbian is just part of life, and bisexuality is in vogue. While racism and homophobia still abound in some sectors of society, the ethic of tolerance and acceptance is normative for many in this generation. That is from pile A. That's talking about Generation X. That's the people who were teenagers before I was a teenager. They encounter the same types of temptations and challenges as previous generations, but also have an ever-available wealth of information no other generation could immediately access. That is B, it's Generation Y, Millennials. Hence, commentators are increasingly proposing that we look beyond dress styles and work habits to recognise the ambitious quality of this independent, pragmatic and often self-sufficient generation. That is A, Gen X. With the amount of time kids spend online increasing, parents should be aware that there is good and bad out there. That's A, Gen X. Okay, I know these are random quotes pulled out of these books out of context, but I'm hoping you're seeing my point. Generational theory has been saying many of exactly the same things about every generation for the last 3 or 4 generations. The problem is generational theory talks in such broad generalizations that it could be true of anyone who just happens to be young in any kind of modern era. All of these books from every generation, X, Y, Z, all of them talk about authenticity. All of them talk about the older church being out of touch. All of them talk about innovation. All of them talk about increased secularization. All of them talk about the information era. All of them talk about increased digital access. All of them talk about increased video game usage. Now, I think there are specifics of every generation that are important to look into. I do think there is important things for us to learn about the particulars of our generation today, and generational theory is important for that reason. But we have to read generational theory with caveats. You can't read a book on Gen Z and go, okay, this is how all young people are. The generalizations are too broad across cultures, and even though there is some interesting specific differences between the generations, at best it gives you a broad brushstroke. So it's important to spend some time learning it. It really is. But please don't make your understanding of young people based solely on generational theory. It just doesn't work that way. Broad brush is great, but you need to get to know your young people personally and deeply. Hopefully this has been interesting, and I'll see you next time.